what some Americans are doing to help them.
It's all ahead this hour. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. We're coming to you live from Atlanta. I'm Natalie Allen.
And I'm George Howell from CNN World Headquarters. Newsroom starts right now.
Thank you again for joining us. New developments in Washington a day after the former #2 man at the FBI was fired, a man repeatedly berated by U.S. President Donald Trump. We've now learned that Andrew McCabe kept notes on his meetings with the president.
That's right. Those memos now in the hands of the special counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating possible Russian meddling in the U.S. election. The Justice Department says McCabe was fired for a laundry list of reasons, but critics say it's likely to be used to call his character into question if Mueller uses him as a witness.
CNN has learned Mueller's team has already interviewed McCabe. A source tells CNN McCabe was asked about the firing of FBI Director James Comey.
Those conversations and McCabe's notes could be used to corroborate Comey's accounts of meetings with the president. CNN's Laura Jarrett breaks it all down for us.
Not only did former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe keep notes on his conversations with the president, but CNN has confirmed that McCabe turned those memos over to special counsel Robert Mueller's team and sat down for an interview. One major topic covered during that interview, well, the firing of former FBI Director James Comey, a topic that Mueller's team has pursued as they investigate, among other things, whether President Trump obstructed justice in his dealings with top law enforcement officials. Now, the McCabe memos could help bolster how Comey describes some of his more past controversial interactions with the president that Trump has said never happened, including requests for loyalty and to go easy on former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, especially if McCabe documented those conversations contemporaneously with the events. But McCabe's knowledge of what happened to Comey, at least in McCabe's view, also explains why he believes he's been subjected to what he calls a pattern of attacks on his reputation and credibility. He told CNN during an interview that the president taunted him repeatedly about his wife's failed state Senate campaign in 2015 and even asked who he voted for in the 2016 election. President Trump did not, however, ask him to end the Russia investigation. Laura Jarrett, CNN, Washington.
Laura, thank you. The firing of Andrew McCabe caused a he said, I said situation. It seems statements made by Donald Trump's personal attorney weren't exactly cleared by his client.
CNN's Boris Sanchez explains what happened next.
As the president relishes in the firing of former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe via Twitter, his personal attorney, John Dowd, is making some eyebrow-raising statements. In a statement provided to the Daily Beast early on Saturday, he said he was praying for the Russia investigation to end, and he apparently told them that he was speaking on behalf of the president as the president's personal attorney. He later walked that back to CNN, John Dowd writing, quote, "Speaking for myself, not the president, I pray that Acting Attorney General Rosenstein will follow the brilliant and courageous example of the FBI Office of Professional Responsibility and Attorney General Jeff Sessions and bring an end to alleged Russia collusion investigation manufactured by McCabe's boss, James Comey, based upon a fraudulent and corrupt dossier just ended on the merits in light of recent revelations." Now, we should note that a source close to the president says that Donald Trump didn't authorize John Dowd to make that statement. In fact, if you talk to people close to the president, you get the sense that they're annoyed that Dowd went in this direction, in part because it contradicts so much of what we've heard previously from the White House when it comes to the special counsel's investigation. Over and over again, officials have told us that they are 100% willing to comply with the special counsel in providing any requested documents or anything he needs. We've heard the president specifically say that he would not fire Robert Mueller. In fact, he said that he was looking forward to sitting down with him to prove that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Now, there have been rumblings prior to this about a firing of Robert Mueller, so much so that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle crafted legislation that would install safeguards to protect Robert Mueller from being fired. That legislation really didn't get anywhere, but we should point out that in the next week, there will be a spending bill that's voted on in Congress, and there may be a push from some lawmakers to include some kind of language that would protect Robert Mueller from that kind of a move by either someone at the Department of Justice or here at the White House. Boris Sanchez at the White House, CNN.
Let's talk more about this with Peter Mathews. He's a professor of political science at Cypress College. He joins us from Los Angeles. Thanks for being with us, Peter.
Good to be here. Thank you, Natalie.
President Trump's lawyer calls for an end to the Mueller probe. Mr. Trump saying there was no collusion. This tweet from the president Saturday, it reads, the Mueller probe should never have been started in that there was no collusion and there was no crime. He adds it was based on fraudulent activities and a fake dossier paid for by crooked Hillary and the DNC and improperly used in FISA court for surveillance of my campaign. Witch hunt. You know, Peter, Washington historians have said over and over, interfering or trying to stop the Mueller investigation would be political suicide. Yet it sure seems like that effort or idea is still on the table for the Trump administration. Your thoughts?
It certainly is, and his actions have proven it. I mean, look at him vilifying Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director, from several months now, because he figures that that man is the central figure in the Mueller investigation. He could corroborate what James Comey had said because these are extensive notes. And so Trump saw him as a real threat. And this goes back to, Natalie, the fact that Trump won the election with less than a majority of the votes, less votes than Hillary. He feels a bit that he's not quite legitimate as president. That's the problem. Because he seems to attack anyone who seems to consider even whether or not, what the direction he's taking in policy. And he should just be president and stop acting like he's so defensively, but he's not doing that. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a problem for him, big time.
That tweet followed the firing of former FBI Deputy Director McCabe. We've heard now from former Director James Comey, also fired by President Trump. He tweeted, Mr. President, the American people will hear my story very soon, and they can judge for themselves who is honorable and who is not. And then this searing condemnation from former CIA Chief John Brennan. He tweeted this toward the president: when the full extent of your venality, moral turpitude, and political corruption becomes known, you will take your rightful place as a disgraced demagogue in the dustbin of history. You may scapegoat Andy McCabe, but you will not destroy America. America will triumph over you. My goodness, very harsh words there from Mr. Brennan. Mr. Trump has tried to own Twitter, but the intelligence agencies are clearly firing back.
Those are powerful words, Natalie, and they mean a lot. Because what they're saying is that this president doesn't seem to respect the rule of law that America stands for. Instead, he believes in intimidation and trying to get the law to be bent in his direction and to interfere with justice. And this is a very serious charge because obstruction of justice was exactly what Richard Nixon was voted upon with his impeachment threat, and he had to resign for that. So the president should take warning on this and change his ways, but it's getting later and later in the game. You're absolutely right. They're very powerful words from these very eminent people, the two of them you just quoted.
And you talked a moment ago about President Trump wanting to keep spinning this, but he's not just alone here. I mean, he's getting support from his legal team as well. It seems a concerted effort to discredit Mueller over and over again.
Yes, and he doesn't want to directly attack Mueller because that would be political suicide for him in a sense. But he wants to attack people around Mueller. In fact, he called the FBI disgraceful FBI back in December. Calling the FBI disgraceful, that's completely out of control. And then, of course, going after McCabe and people around Mueller without directly attacking Mueller himself. And once again, the source of legitimacy is what we're talking about here. You know, the eminent German sociologist Max Weber said the source of legitimacy, there are three of them: tradition, charisma, and legality. Trump doesn't seem to have any of those that he bases his actions on. Tradition, he's not traditional in any way. Charisma, he's only charismatic to 1/3 of the people. Legality, he just seems to flout a lot of the rule of law principles. And this is very dangerous for democracy, Natalie, and we're heading on the wrong path here. But I think eventually the truth will come out.
Let's look at what the fired Deputy Director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, had to say about his firing. He said this: "I am being singled out and treated this way because of the role I played, the actions I took, and the events I witnessed in the aftermath of the firing of James Comey." So McCabe, even though he was found by investigators to not be forthcoming a fireable offense, he is letting the country know he would have been able to support Mr. Comey in the Mueller investigation, and that's the reason the president fired him. So certainly he is not going quietly into the night, just like Comey is not. And so you've got this continued duel with those that have the president, has said good riddance to, and the president still fighting them at every step. How significant is McCabe's defense here?
Extremely significant. He can appeal this to the public, especially, and be more legitimate in the eyes of the law by saying, look, the reason that President Trump's going after me has nothing to do with what he's saying it is, but it's actually because I am a person who could be very forthright as a witness. I can corroborate James Comey's testimony and his facts, and I've taken extensive notes as well, and they're in the hands of Mr. Mueller already. You know that. But this is a real threat to President Trump. He had to, therefore, completely discredit McCabe as much as he could by these innuendos and accusations for many, many months now.
Peter Mathews, as always, we thank you, and we will likely talk with you again as this saga pushes on. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much, now.
Still ahead, police are investigating the poisoning of a former Russian spy. They've turned their attention now